You're listening to Trailblazers.fm, an interview-styled podcast that delves deep into bold conversations with successful Black entrepreneurs and leaders. Join us weekly to learn actionable strategies, valuable tactics, and innovative tools that you can put to use immediately on your journey to blazing your trail. And now, here's your host, my husband, Stephen A. Hart.
Blaze Nation, hello, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us today. My name is Stephen A. Hart. I'm the host of Trailblazers.fm, an interview-style podcast that's now branched out into live stream and other media platforms. And I'm so excited to be talking today with three amazing women that kicked off a platform called Share the Mic in Cyber. And I just want to get right into it and welcome Camille, Lauren, and Katelyn to the stage. Welcome.
Hey, Stephen. Thanks for having us.
I love that intro. Irie vibes in the music, the wifey on the intro. It's perfect.
I know.
You just one? What is
I know.
that?
Private services.
So, that's the commonality to every episode that I've ever published going back to 2016. Kristen had always done intros, and I'd have her re-record them maybe once every year, but she'd never done that. And so I had her record a jingle for me to update it, and she had jokingly added that on one of the last takes. And when I went to live stream, I was like, you know what, I'm going to use this. I love this. And people have just embraced it since. So
She's got a great voice for the podcast. It's awesome.
Yes. So listen, I start every conversation off from a place of gratitude, and so I'm gonna do something a little bit different. I want you to introduce yourselves and just share something that you're most grateful for in your life right now. So I'll start off with Lauren.
Wow. Hi, Stephen. Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Zabierek. I run the Cyber Project at the Harvard Kennedy School's Belfer Center, and I am a co-founder of Share the Mic in Cyber. Speaking of gratitude, I'm really grateful at this point, to have met Camille and Katelyn and to have been able to bring this movement to life and to see the impact that it's had. Because I think it's just really important for cybersecurity, national security, and, just general well-being. So thank you.
Camille.
Hi, everyone. I'm Camille Stewart. I am the Global Head of Product Security Strategy at Google. I am a co-founder of Share the Mic in Cyber, and, I do a few other things. I'm going to continue in the same vein and just say that the community that has been formed around Share the Mic in Cyber is what makes it great. Lauren and I conceived of a thing, and between organizations, people, Katelyn, all of joining on and adding their collective wisdom, collective energy, collective creativity, it has gotten much bigger than we ever could have imagined. And I am just humbled and grateful for the fact that it continues to live on and impact lives and impact the space. So I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, I love how you say you do some other things, Camille. Hey, everyone. I'm Katelyn Ringrose. I work on data governance issues at Google, which is inclusive of cybersecurity and privacy, and I'm a privacy lawyer by trade. I am a co-host of Share the Mic in Cyber, and definitely want to echo what Lauren and Camille are saying about community, but also from a personal standpoint. When I joined Share the Mic in Cyber and I heard about the movement, I was so incredibly inspired. And I thought about the movement, and I didn't really think about how it would impact me as an individual. And now moving through the pandemic and we're all virtual, these are the women I probably text the most. These are the people outside of my house that I reach out to if I, have a random thought or, want to get together or leave my place. When I think we talk about community in this larger realm, but it's also about these personal connections.
I love this. So listen, it's actually been just about a year. I want to say it's October last year that I met Camille through an event with SANS, and started following her, started learning more about Share the Mic in Cyber, saw a post she had about Katelyn and Lauren. I'm like, what are these women up to? So I wanted to maybe kick us off and have you first off explain what is Share the Mic in Cyber. Lauren, maybe you want to get us going?
Yeah, I'll get you going. So Share the Mic in Cyber at its core is an online movement that is dedicated to combating, dismantling systemic racism in cybersecurity, privacy, tech, etc. It's, you know, on the day of the actual event, we have allies, whether, you know, in the beginning, it was prominent allies from cybersecurity. We were able to leverage our networks and get people, you know, really prominent in the industry to help out. And they share their platform with Black cyber professionals in the space. So whether that's Twitter or LinkedIn, and then the professionals, the practitioners will share their stories, share their work, so that we can highlight their voices on those platforms and really show people, you know, these professionals are experts in their field. They are here, they're doing the work, because we really think that shining a light on the middle not only begets real benefits for the pipeline, but also, you know, creates hopefully pathways for leadership as well. And then, of course, leading up to the actual event, we have a number of events happening, and other just promotion and amplification.
I'll just say that, you know, my gratitude statement about people piling on is reflected in Lauren's explanation of the program. It started out as this one day thing that we wanted to spark action amongst people, and it has grown to include month-long programming anytime we have it, a scholarship fund, Cyberbase, which is a database of Black cyber talent that's launching in partnership with R Street Institute. We'll launch a fellowship in the future, and it just keeps growing. And so Share the Mic in Cyber, probably at its inception, we would have said it was a social media campaign to raise awareness and promote action, but it truly is a movement because it is so much bigger than that.
I love it. So what really sparked the idea? Take me back, right? First off, before we did that, how did the three of you get connected?
So that's the funny story. Not funny as in like a haha, but just like, it's really interesting, right? So I always start the story with, okay, I don't often tell this part, but at the time I was really pregnant and I was, you know, laying on the couch. It was during the summer, just exhausted. And, you know, I was scrolling through Instagram and I saw this Share the Mic Now campaign on Instagram. So Share the Mic Now was started by Bozoma St. John, Lovey Ajayi Jones, Glennon Doyle, Stacey Bednett. It was really focused on women in entertainment and politics. And I don't know if you ever got this great idea and you just feel it through your body, you just feel this spark. And I was like, I think this could really, you know, be great in cybersecurity and national security. So I reached out to a friend and she was like, yeah, that's really interesting. And then I see Camille Stewart tweet about it on Twitter. Mind you, I was not following her. I had no idea about Camille at all. I just happened to see this random tweet. So I think it was fate, to be honest with you. And so I tweeted at her and then, you know, she let me slide into her DMs and, and we just started to talk and plan, and we got on the phone, and literally within 2 weeks, we had leveraged our networks and just thrown something together. So Camille, I'm sure you have something to add on to that.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was kismet. It was something beyond the two of us. I put out this tweet that was like, gosh, this would be great in cybersecurity and national security. And at the time, I was leading an organization called Diversity and National Security Network, and now Next Gen NetSec. And we decided to do it in celebration of Juneteenth in a broader national security space. And then when Lauren responded, I was like, let's do it in cyber too. Let's make it happen. So we did it the very next week. And we were able to use some of the learnings from the other one to build something that I will say took on a life of its own, was even bigger and clearly has grown into something much broader. But it was all by happenstance, definitely inspired by the Share the Mic Now campaign, but has become so much bigger. And I think the focus of it and the timeliness of it is what made it so important. And not just timely because it was in response to the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and others, but because the community was at a point where they were desperate to help their peers, but felt crippled to inaction, right? This problem seems so much bigger than me. This seems like an organizational problem or an industry problem, or government needs to do something. What can I do? And Share the Mic in Cyber gave folks an outlet to be a part of the solution. Your individual action could spark some collective action. So people brought whatever they had to the table, whether that was to start like 11 million followers or 1,100,000 followers or whatever it was, or my department at my company is going to do a thing, or we're going to partner on a event, or I'm going to use my connections to a nonprofit to start a scholarship fund. And it is just beautifully grown as people felt empowered to use the fullness of whatever was in their sphere of influence to support this cause. And so it's just great how it's grown.
Yeah.
You know, you talk about it in that way, and it makes it sound like you guys have been at this for 10, 15 years. When did this start?
The first one was June 26, 2020.
2020. That's
And
like,
our tweet,
right? So
our tweet exchange was on June 9th, just FYI. So it was.
That does feel like a while ago.
Doesn't it?
well,
Yeah.
2020 was like 10 years, right?
It
So
was, yes.
Time has no meaning anymore. But yeah, and I also wanted, so the last part of this story though is the addition of Katelyn. So as I mentioned, I was like super pregnant, and then I went on maternity leave in the early fall, and Katelyn, was just so gracious to step in. So Katelyn, I'll let you tell that story.
So I will say first, what Camille said rang true. This feeling of being overwhelmed, not sure what to do, knowing that Black Lives Matter protests were, moving through DC, and also seeing this movement move through my Twitter feed. I really thought, wow, this is a way that I can funnel these feelings of inaction and indecision, and really connect with a community who cares. And so when I initially reached out, I did so because I'm on the board of Women in Security and Privacy here in DC. And I thought, wow, we could, leverage these two communities. And so I slid, like Lauren said, into Camille's DMs. And when I connected with Lauren, because she already opened the subject, she was very pregnant. She was like bouncing on a ball. I don't think she could sit at a desk anymore. She was like, any moment I'm going to have this baby. What are you able to do? Could you pitch in? And that's how I joined the community at this moment of I really want to participate. I want to learn about how to get involved. And just being able to leverage the existing infrastructure that Lauren and Camille made was so fascinating and wonderful for me.
And you never know what it's going to be like when random people come together.
that's what I'm thinking.
And yeah, so I was like, so first Lauren and I started working together, and I was like, this is great. She gets me. We can bounce off each other really well. And I was like, well, we got to do this again in October. And Lauren was like, but I'm going to have this baby. And I was like, that's true and important. I think we can still do it. She's like, don't be a superhero. And then she was like, Katelyn said she would help. And I was like, okay, well, we'll see. We'll see. Because people say they're going to help, and then they don't help. And then Katelyn became a lifeline. We Share the Mic in Cyber happens so well. She took us up a notch, and gave Lauren the brain space and physical space to have her baby and not have to engage, right? And we wanted that for her. But then I also didn't have to drown. And so I am forever grateful that we all came together in this wacky set of circumstances, but that like it just works together so seamlessly.
I know,
Yes.
and she's so like humble, and she's like, "Oh, I'm just the co-host." And I'm like, "I'm just here to, support these two." I'm like, "Stop it."
Right.
I will say though, like Camille, you're right that like, you join these projects and you think it's gonna be like a school project where you're doing work and people are like, messing around. No, this is one of those projects where you get together and everyone has fantastic ideas and they're really action oriented, and you all just like feed off of each other's energy and you do more. And so I think the problem for us is always like, don't bite off more than we can chew. It is always our prevailing rhetoric. Let's be, tone this down. But even toned down, Share the Mic and Cyber has been a huge fundamental success.
And that's the thing, right? You three are superwomen in your respective focus areas outside of Share the Mic. This isn't a full-time bit for the three of you, right? Are you all in the world of cyber?
Yeah, we all work in cyber issues in different ways, but with a lot of connective tissue. Lauren and I have both worked in national security and government. Katelyn and I both work at Google now. So our issues overlap, but we all have different specialties. Wow.
So that kind of helps to narrow in the idea of Share the Mic specific to cyber. What's that been like as you kind of unfolded? You peel back this banana, you're like, hey, we're going to do this. And what was the response to the initial run and then coming into October last year and coming forward to now?
When we started to reach out to our respective networks, so many people were like, yes, what do I do? Let me sign up. Yep, I want to help. And which was really amazing. And so it was easy. We had to put together, instructions and content and graphics and to make it easier for them. But they were very much like, yes, I'm all in. Let's do this. And I talk a lot about the national security implications of this issue, but I also, I get, really impacted when I hear like the really human side of, not only the issues that people are facing, whether that's overt discrimination in the workplace or feeling othered or feeling voiceless, or, learning about the barriers, to success. But then hearing about the positive impacts of Share the Mic and Cyber. So, when the first campaign happened, we were like, whew, that was cool. But then the stories started to pour in and we're like, oh, okay, interesting. So I won't hog this, and Camille or Katelyn want to tell some of those stories, but they just honestly blew me away.
And that's, listen, I think the thing that draws me to you is the fact that this platform allows us to expand the representation, right, for not only people who are in industry right now, but listen, I'm raising, I joke with you guys before we got going, right? I have 2 young crumb snatchers that I'm raising up. And that was the basis for, it was motivation really, when my daughter was about 4, to say, hey, you know what? I want her to see representation of people doing other things beyond, being a musician or some kind of celebrity or athlete. She's crazy athletic, and I'm not knocking her if that's her path, but I want her to see success. When I was standing in daycare, I'm out here in the burbs in Maryland. I'm looking around at other parents who are running amazing companies in DC at highest rank in their respective industries. And I'm like, why aren't we telling these stories? So I love that, you are helping to amplify representation in a way that, we don't see. I work with the Science Institute, and it's a big part of kind of what pushes me inside of cyber myself, because I walk in a classroom and I see, 19 of 20 people, 25 people are old white men. and it pains me, right? So I want to see that change. And Katelyn, you actually shared a statistic I'd love you to kind of share with us, because I was caught by it, and I was like, is it that high for women?
Oh, really? You were surprised it was so high for women?
Yeah.
Well, Black Girls in Cyber just tweeted a report today saying that currently 21% of all cybersecurity analysts are women, while 71% are men, and 7.2% are Black. So I think it kind of drives home this point that we're always trying to make, that yes, we need more diversity in cyber. We need more focus on this issue. And then also, like Camille mentioned, we need to amplify the folks that are in this field, that are doing the work, and really focusing, like Lauren said, on the middle. We have so many conversations about pipelines and about early education, but really, where are we when it comes to supporting folks that are already in the field, that are doing this work, that might feel like their voices aren't being heard in these rooms, or might feel like their career is not progressing in the way that they need it to?
Yeah. What's been so that was kind of the thought. What's been the feedback to, okay, is this helping me gain the visibility? Is it helping to secure more seats at the table? Have you been able to derive any kind of feedback on that end?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was some skepticism from Black practitioners at first, being like, what is this about? Will it actually be helpful? But they participated. And I think seeing the outpouring of support and the network that grew from it, people continue to come back and be like, so when is the next one? How are we going to make that happen? And on both sides, that ask continues to ring true. But we have seen people get board seats, new jobs, partnerships among organizations, the launches that I talked about, scholarship funds, cyber-based fellowships. Companies are putting money behind the mission, and figuring out how to adapt it for their own environments. Google did a Share the Mic in Cyber blog post for Black women in cyber in alignment with the March campaign that we did. And Twitter did a Twitter Spaces event with their CISO Rinky, and hosted a conversation about navigating space with some practitioners at their company. And so organizations and individuals alike are seeing the benefit in it. And I hope that that is continuing. I hope that that is being pumped into the DNA of the organization and becoming part of the lived experience every day, and not just performative as it relates to Share the Mic in Cyber, and not just one way, like one investment, right? Like that it is actually being baked into the culture. And every time I hear a story of a new board seat, which is a decision-making space, right? Like that's people getting into leadership in some way, or people getting new senior level jobs, people gaining visibility, people being connected to people who are considered cyber leaders in the industry, such that they can make a new connection or start a new org. I know that this is having the kind of impact we were hoping for, that people are actually taking action and not, taking the one day to do a nice thing on Twitter or on LinkedIn. And so we want more of that. There's a lot of work to be done, but it's definitely having impact.
And that's the thing I love most. I mean, the influence is cool. And, I've seen metrics of, okay, you have this much influence, this much impressions on a campaign that you run. But what I hear you just echo just a second ago is the impact. And that's what drives you, right? One story could push you to the next, through next several months of pressure to work on this, as kind of your side hustles, if you will. How are you guys getting help to, continue to evolve and grow this? And what's driving you right now?
As far as help, I mean, it's mainly the three of us, and then sometimes I get some students to help out throughout the semester, and I think Camille has some people who want to help out too. But really, we're looking to institutionalize it and get some staff behind it, because we, based on what Camille said, right? It's having impact. But one of the things that was very clear to us, especially after June of last year and October and March, was that this is real and it's needed. This particular action is needed, and so we really need to put full-time staff, full-time effort behind this. And so that's what we are trying to do now, because we want to see it continue and grow in ways that we can't necessarily do as purely volunteers right now, because we do this, like we were saying, on top of our day jobs and dealing with family stuff and all that, right? So we want to be able to sort of give it wings and let it grow.
I love that. So you touched on the staffing and having it grow. Are you comfortable speaking to any of the challenges that you still are kind of working through right now? Because I know building a platform, building a movement that's growing, right? Like now this is a fast moving train. What are some of the challenges that you guys are still working through?
I mean, to the point of this also being volunteer, it's very scrappy. So I'm not a fundraiser. So finding the money to get somebody hired to be their full-time job so they can put the work behind it is a new muscle for all of us. Meeting the demand that's been created by the work that we're doing is a constant battle, struggle, balancing act. A wonderful one, but one that is very tough, as we all have pretty big jobs and fellowships and families and all kinds of things outside of it. And then even the following through on some of the derivative things can get tough, right? Like people want to have a conversation about things, and people want to partner on things, or people want to expand in different ways. And it gets tough to manage all of that at the same time, because there tends to be an influx, of course, around campaigns, because people are reminded and they're like, oh yeah, I had an idea where I could do this thing and that thing, and let's do it. And I'm like, I would love to do the thing, but unless you could do all the work for the thing, the three of us can't do the thing. And I'm usually the one that's like, guys, we just gotta, say no for now, because
thing about you, but
huh?
Your ability to just say, if you want to partner with us, then look, this is what you have to do. And I love that. I think it's so important and critical to preserve.
But you kind of have to, right? To be able to make the space.
Exactly. I mean, it is a hard learned lesson and a hard fought battle to even say that to someone. Mm-hmm. But I want to be able to do it justice. When I have a conversation with the executives at my organization who heard in one of our events someone's story that pulled on his heart so much that he had an understanding of like the experience of moving through not only the world, but through this industry as a Black man or a Black woman, such that his whole perspective has changed and now wants to do all the things. Mm. I don't want to dilute the effort that goes behind continuing to put this on so that more people have that realization, so that more people step outside of their own experience and understand what it's like to show up in the world in a box that has been othered, and to succeed despite that, because of it, and dealing with all the things that come around that. And so I try to think of it from that perspective. It's not like a no because I don't want to or because we don't even have time. It's a no because if I can't do it justice, if I don't think we all can do it justice, and part of doing it justice is for us to be full people who get to engage in our lives outside of working and service and advocacy, then I don't want us to take it on. And so if I have to be the steward of Lauren and Katelyn's family time and my own, then I will try to be just that. But like to do it all justice, to do ourselves as individuals justice, we have to.
Yeah.
Just thinking about, the month of the campaign and everything that goes into it, I think makes all of us sort of hyperventilate. But then we're like, okay.
It's always a high
stress.
Get done. But it's so rewarding. Like the day after, we're compiling stats and we're like, I just know I feel so relieved that, the campaign's over, but also I just feel so happy and looking forward to all those stories. And we do hear so many positive stories. I really think that is what drives so much of this, is hearing back from individuals. This week alone, we heard from a previous volunteer who got a scholarship and is, going to college and wanted to let us know. And then one previous participant that actually got a position with her ally's company and wanted to share that she has this, fruitful relationship and they're really building something together. And so I think those stories are at the heart of this campaign.
Yeah, when somebody reaches out and is just like, this changed my life. And I've told that, to another person before, like your work has changed my life. And I don't know, to hear something like that, I think all of us are very invested in making good change. And so when you get that feedback, it's really, really humbling. And as Katelyn said, it just drives you. So that gives us the energy, I think, to go through, the 2 months of planning and just really push through and because, we know it'll get done. And then, to have that on the other side is it's amazing.
That's always the mission feel, right? Just knowing you have that impact is everything. You hear that one person that you had that kind of impact on and in their lives, and it's moving. Can't agree more. So I know the three of you are now girlfriends. You're sitting down, you're having some digital drinks, and you're like, where's this gonna go? What's the end goal? How big do we grow this thing? How long do we push this? Any thoughts on or has that conversation happened?
Not in a how long do we push this. I think as long as there's a need and we have the infrastructure, whether that's with us or setting up that institutionalization that Lauren's talking about, we'll continue to be of service as long as we can. But I personally hope that as folks continue to engage, as organizations continue to engage, as the industry continues to increase their awareness on how important diversity is to combating the threat that we all elected to work against as cybersecurity practitioners, that this will become ingrained in organizational culture and industry culture and what we do, such that we don't need Share the Mic in Cyber.
Yeah.
And we focus on a specific demographic, but we have seen that this work affects every underserved group, and that awareness doesn't stop with one group. And so I hope that there is a pervasive change such that we can have a conversation in a few years and say, like, yeah, we retired it because y'all don't need us anymore. You got it.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. You could also look at it, from a metric standpoint. The last time I looked at, I think it was CyberSeek, right? There's 500,000 open cybersecurity jobs. And, the numbers that Katelyn mentioned, when those numbers start to change, and even I don't know if I'm sure there've been studies on burnout of the people who are here in the industry now. Mm-hmm. I think when those start to change too, that will be a really interesting indicator for where we are in this work. Because, as I mentioned, we try to, again, focus on the people who are here, but it does have impact on the pipeline, because people are always saying, and we know that the pipeline is a perennial issue. And it also has impacts for, people in the leadership ranks. So when those things start to move, then I think that job will have been, I don't want to say completed, but brought to fruition a lot. So I look ahead to something like that.
I can't wait. I know, on the SAN side, I myself and a couple of the leaders there have had the discussion last summer, came together and said, hey, let's create a task force. And it's been moving to see us address the pipeline side of things, right? To know that, okay, we need to get as many people in so that we can address more people in the ranks to be able to move into leadership, to move into being instructors who are teaching the classes at SANS, not just butts in seat learning. But, it's been amazing to see SANS and other organizations kind of making strides, real strides, more than just, waving, some investment, but actually taking, real action and investing time in this has been heartwarming. And, I'm just excited to kind of see the change that will come of it. And like you said, Camille, it will be amazing when you can say, you know what, we don't even need this anymore. It's just embedded in the way of our everyday. Can't wait to see that. I'm hoping for Crumb Snatcher #1, that's the world she comes into, where there's more balance.
Yeah, that's the dream. That's the goal. Let's hope it happens.
Yeah. So, people always say, you're not promised tomorrow. I didn't think we're promised the rest of today. Not to sound pessimistic, right? But that's life. How do each of you want to be remembered, whether through Share the Mic and Cyber or, just in your own walk and your journey? Completely off the topic of Share the Mic, but that's a Stephen question. I'll jump at Katelyn with this one.
Oh, wait, Camille, if you had an answer, I got to brainstorm.
I'll start. I'll spare you guys. Give you some time to think. I live in service of people and the greater, the greater good. And I recognize that sounds cliche, but most of the things that I do are about we have people at the center of them. That's why cybersecurity as an issue is of great import to me. I think technology has the power to close divides, but also exacerbate them, and security is at the core of much of that. I think, all of the disparities that we see amongst communities and the globalization of the world and how all those things come together around technology, society, the law, and security are all things that I'm passionate about because of people. I think the human condition is a beautiful, messy thing that we all take part in, and we should do the work to make this time we're all here, this time we had together, better. And so I hope that people look back and say that all of the work that she did was in service and in furtherance of that. If they say that, then I'll be really happy.
I love that.
That was beautiful. I don't know how we can go after that. To sound cliche, and I think this was like a Marine Corps saying at some point, but I hope that people remember me for being someone who runs toward the fight. And not just any fight, but the ones that help, that do good for people.
Hmm.
Yeah. You are definitely that.
Absolutely. This is a really, really hard question. I actually live right next to a cemetery, so I probably should be thinking about this. And it's somewhere that's open to the public, and I walk around there all the time. And I look at folks' gravestones. I saw J. Edgar Hoover's gravestone the other day.
Wow.
And I think, wow, this is a place where people had planned to leave their last messages and, to really say what they stood for. And for me, it's a cemetery that's filled with, like we said, old white men, right? There's not much diversity there. And it seemed like what these people were going for was something on their gravestone about, the great person they were. And so I think, if anything, I just want, even if it's one or a few people to remember me as a person, and love me for me. That's so much more powerful than having anything left in history. So even if I can just accomplish that, it would be much more meaningful than some of the stuff I see out in the world, people striving for, honestly.
I love that, Katelyn. I often, ask that question, and I hope that Blaze Nation and everyone watching this video gives thought to that, right? Like, what's your legacy play? What's your, that you're living out now, not as you touched on, after you're gone, right? But it kind of helps you to think about a future marker, a destination that you want to get to while we're here, and pursue. So listen, I am so grateful. I'll wrap us up and ask you to share one action. This is a question I ask all my guests. What's one action that our Blaze Nation coming away from this conversation should take that's going to help them to blaze their trail?
Well,
anyone
first,
can jump in on that one.
I wanted to say, share the Mike and Cyber with us on October 22nd. It's a Friday, spend all day retweeting and resharing. That's step number one. And then, I think we'll all say act within your organization to fight systemic racism in whatever way you're able to do. I think for me, join us in our upcoming campaign and hopefully later campaigns, and act.
So to use another military thing, because I was in the military a long time ago, and this thing has stuck in my head, and I was thinking about it today. Like, the first thing to do is sort of listen, right? But the phrase that I'm thinking of is called the OODA loop, which is observe, orient, decide, and act. And that's actually taught to pilots, I think. But I think it's relevant because, I was thinking today, like, how can people do something actionable and make impact? And I think the first thing to do is really listen, listen, see what's going on, identify some issues that, are need some action basically. But not only that, but who's experiencing them and how. And so really, take the time to do that. Because, going back to something that we were just talking about, is, we hope that change will happen, right? But one thing that I just want to press on is that the change will happen if we all do it, right? We all have a part in making this happen. So if we all decide to act in some way, then I really do think things will change. We can't just leave it up to somebody else to do it. Put that burden on somebody else. We all have to do something.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I echo both of them. So you're signed up for Share the Mike and Cyber, or you're following along and amplifying people on the 22nd and throughout the month. You're acting. And while you're acting and listening and orienting yourself, don't be afraid to have tough conversations. We need to continue to do that. The moment is not over. There's still a lot of work to do. And even with all of these beautiful moments of progress and openness and orientation to these issues, we still walk through the world through a lens of our experiences and our identity. And so if you are in a place where you can speak up for someone else, where you can carry the water on some of the tough conversations or advocating for them, please do that. But most importantly, don't be afraid to have tough conversations about what is going on, how people are seeing the world, how people are feeling the world, and to be able to handle the fullness of their response. Because for someone who is living oppression or marginalization or othering every day, that might come up as sadness, but it also might come up as anger and frustration. And you should let them feel that. And hopefully you can walk through that conversation and take something from that and get to a place where you can learn from it. But don't be afraid of the tough. It'll happen, but this is a tough issue. And by weathering some of that discomfort, we'll make a lot more progress.
I love that. Thank you three for being here, for sharing openly and being so transparent. I will close off and say this. Lauren and Katelyn, I appreciate you both for stepping into this work. You're the first two women who are not Black women on this podcast. And I wanted you both here. I wanted you here because I think in this work, they're a couple really dear friends of mine in the work we're doing inside of SANS, who I could say, or another person of color could scream from a mountaintop. But when you have someone who is outside of the group that's screaming from a mountaintop saying, hey, this needs to change, sometimes it just takes on a different level of understanding. And so I genuinely appreciate you guys stepping in and saying, hey, this needs to change, and we're standing in the gap with you. It means a lot.
Well, thank you. That means the world to me. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I agree. I think, Lauren, I'm sure this goes for you too, but every day I'm trying to learn how to be a better ally. And like Camille mentioned, going into those tough conversations and being able to have a fulsome one is difficult. It's a challenge, and just trying to grow into that has been such an important journey.
Yeah. And, some of these conversations, we don't necessarily have to come away with a solution. Yeah. Sometimes it's just a level of understanding, and it's going to take days for us to even get through the wait. I've had some of those tough calls, and there is no one coming away from the call happy. But as we digest and we come away with that level of understanding, we can step into a future call with some perspective and appreciation, right, for somebody else's perspective. And so, listen, I commend you three. I acknowledge you for the work you've done in a volunteer capacity to be able to grow Share the Mic as you have. Clearly, there's a need, and you're continuing to push forward for the impact, which is important. I'm going to continue to be a support for you guys. Excited that we're doing some stuff with SANS in October, and continue to push ahead, push through the hard parts, because it is having an impact. So thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for having us. And I echo your sentiments about Lauren and Katelyn. They are excellent allies and walking the walk every day.
Thanks.
Yes.
Yeah.
So one more time for the people in the back, share up what's happening in October on the 22nd.
On October 22nd, that is the campaign day. It's the social media day. So that's when our allies will share their platforms with the practitioners, and they're not sharing credentials. Don't worry. It's all sort of pre-staged. And that's when everybody who, are not in that cohort, the practitioners and the allies, please retweet, amplify, post, like, share, talk about it. Especially love to hear your thoughts on it, and just want to make more people aware and shine a bigger light on our cohort.
Yes, engage in the conversation. So that back and forth between the ally or practitioner, join in. If there's a question, answer it. Highlight, the folks that are participating. That would be wonderful. And our theme this time is public-private partnerships. So a lot of the conversation will be around that. And we're trying to create some of those trust links that enable the work that we do across cyber. And so join in from that perspective as well.
We didn't touch on this, but how can those in terms of like organizations, I know you guys, we talked about, having to figure out where to say no and being able to control a lot coming at you. But if there are organizations that are institutions looking at this conversation between us and saying, hey, I'd love to be a part of Share the Mic in Cyber, how do they get involved?
So you mentioned SANS. I think that's a perfect place to start. We've had organizations that have partnered with us to expand and amplify our work from the very beginning. And it's an opportunity for organizations to do outreach, to engage in positive actions. We have partnership organizations and ally organizations, and they'll work with us. We're a grassroots campaign, so they'll work with us in whatever way they can, whether that's amplifying, engaging in conversations, engaging in their own action within organization, driving funds to scholarships, partnering on events, funding our fellowship program. There are so many ways to get involved as an organization. And I think really the sky is the limit. Camille mentioned this, but when organizations come to us, we love to hear unique ideas and really encouraging folks, email us, reach out. We have open office hours where we have these discussions. And we want to make sure that the organizations we're partnered with know that this isn't just about the day of the campaign. It is about leveraging that collective action to bring insights into your organization, change the structures of your org, and make sure that you value the voices and experiences of Black cyber practitioners every single day.
And that statement was not a deterrent for you to ask, to reach out, to partner, to collab. Please do that still. We'll be honest about what we're capable of and, timelines and all that good stuff. We are always looking to partner. And so talk to us about it. What are your ideas? How do you want to engage? We're happy to ideate with you and to figure out what's possible.
Love it. And so definitely make sure you guys are hopping over to sharethemicincyber.com. Check out the website, learn a bit more about what's happening. And again, follow on all the socials, right?
Please do. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, ladies.
Thanks.
Thanks, Stephen. It was a pleasure to be on today. Thank you for having us. And I'm honored to be, among your only, I think what you said, white women. So I'm honored. So thank you.